been like getting Elon Musk, on.
How'd that happen?
I asked him twice. First time he said maybe. Second time he said sure. But that's a
You
10
just
year.
text him?
Emailed him at the time, and then then I followed. The second time was a text. I was like, "Yo, you said maybe."
What do you say? What do you say in the text? Are you hitting Elon with like a "you up" text, or are you just like very specific? Hey, we're going to be in Austin. Here's the date and time. Can you do it?
No, he said if you're in Austin, both. Try to be as specific as possible, but be short as well. I know I only have a few seconds of his time, but when I texted him the last time, I said, "Hey, I think this is a great weekend to do this." At the time, the Twitter deal was kind of pending. I said, "I'll stay away from any Twitter talk," because there was like this talk of Twitter lawsuit and all this. We'll stay away from all Twitter talk. I'll give you final approval on the video.
I actually think that this is something that many people who aren't in the content creation business don't really understand. So journalists, there's no final approval, right? They're going to write their story. They're going to do their interview. They're going to kind of produce whatever content they are, and they go out with it. And they do their best for the most part to try to be accurate and try to get all the different perspectives and kind of. I think most journalists are trying to do the right thing. But when there is no final approval, like it just goes out. And a friend of mine recently, somebody wrote a big article about him, and I texted him, and he was like, "I'm happy with how it turned out." Right. And so it was like kind of like you don't know until it's out, and he read it and he liked it. Now, in podcasts and YouTube and all this stuff, what I've noticed is there are a lot of business leaders, a lot of investors, those types of individuals who are gravitating towards podcasts and YouTube style content because they do get to see it at the end. And I think that there's a difference between like what some people would refer to as like the gotcha journalism, right? Which is like, hey, I'm trying to get you to say something that's bombastic so then I can twist it or whatever, versus like, we're going to talk about things today that are like non-controversial, right? And it's like, I want you to be able to feel comfortable to talk, right? And vice versa when you guys are doing those interviews. But how important do you think it is that you say to a guy like Elon, you get final approval?
It's very, it's what's crazy with what you're saying is it's very important because we offer it to every single guest. And what's crazy is nobody's ever called us and said to take this out. Right? Because I think they feel so comfortable that they're just like not on the spot and they're not overthinking what they're saying because they're like, okay, at the end of the day, I'm going to have final approval. But there wasn't a single thing, Elon. We didn't even talk about it after. We just went live. I think we went live like 2 days later. Like he never said, hey, I thought you said final approval. There was nothing. Sometimes we'll ask someone at the end. Like I remember we did David Portnoy and I texted him. I said, hey, anything that you want to take it out of that? And he said, no. Sometimes I'll follow up and ask, but almost never has anyone ever told us, even though we've offered it. No one said, hey, take that one part out or whatever.
I always say that the people who ask for a bunch of stuff to be removed, we've had, I don't know, maybe at 1,200 episodes, maybe like 5 or 6 people who have been like, literally one person one time was like, here's the timestamps. Can you take out this to this to this, whatever. And it's like, those are the episodes where you're like, look, it's already trending where if you're that worried about it, you probably really weren't saying things anyways that were super, super interesting. And so, the more successful somebody is, the less likely I think they are to.
Okay, I can tell you right now, there'll be no changes required from this episode. There'll be none. If I said something wrong, that's on me. That's not your team's fault. That's my fault.
All right. So you guys do the Elon interview. What is that like? I mean, you guys are obviously you're all in there. I think that you and kind of your background, your relationship, you've known him, right? All this stuff is very different than maybe like Kyle or any of the other guys. Like, what are they like before Elon comes in the room, right? What is that whole process like?
Well, it was I think a little nerve wracking because it was supposed to be done the day before, and there were some kind of like some hiccups and some issues with like different things that it didn't happen. So then the next day, actually, I didn't get a hold of Elon till like 3 p.m. the next day. So so there were, we had flown out. It was my brother's birthday the day before, so we had flown out and spent a lot of money last second to fly out, and I'm just sitting there. I took my wife with me at the time, so I'm just like I had like some like emotional support because I was just like I can't let these guys down. Like the whole team flew to Austin because the last message you were asking what the last message with Elon was, hey, I'm down to do it this weekend, and I said, where are you going to be? And he said, Florida or Texas. I was like, well, which one? Like, I didn't even know you go to Florida. I've never heard of Elon coming to Florida. I was like,
coin flip.
Yeah. So I was like, which one? And I said, should we just book our flights to Texas? And he just wrote back, sure. I was like, okay. So then we just did that. This was on like Friday. I said, hey, we'll be there Monday. And he said, okay. Some things happened Monday, couldn't happen. So then I said, hey, let's do it tomorrow. He said, message me in the morning. Message him in the morning. Didn't hear back till like 3 p.m. And then he just wrote me like, see you at 9 p.m. tonight.
So 9 p.m. on a Tuesday, the world's richest man just rolls. What is it, like in a hotel room?
We had got a hotel room like in downtown Austin. Yeah.
And so he just rolls in. Just sits down and just records a fucking podcast.
Yeah. So he's like pulling up. I'm like, oh, okay.
It's always so funny to me, right? Because you always remember, like, once you're around these folks that like they are humans, right? They put one pant leg on at a time, like all the normal shit. They text, right? Pulling up, like whatever. But from afar, right? Like he's dealing with the Twitter stuff. He's got somebody tracking his like private plane. He's freaking out about, right? Like
launching
all this
rockets.
like all this crazy stuff that you got to deal with when you're the world's richest man and running all these companies. And then like you find time to go chill in a fucking.
He's the best, man. After that, like he and I've always, and I was going back to the relationship. I met him in 2013. So this is now what we're talking about is August of 2022. So it was like 9 years after, like 9 years of me and him just kind of occasionally chat and ran into each other a few different times. Mutual friends' birthdays. Actually, one time I was at a restaurant. He was there. We ran into each other. We were sitting next to each other. But we just always kind of stayed in touch. But after then, like he and I really stayed in touch. Like there's like it's like kind of crazy now. It's like I talk to him weekly. Like
really,
yeah, all
what
different types of things. Usually Twitter. Usually Twitter.
Like you like giving them like product tips.
Creators he really cares about the creator space, and he really wants Twitter to be the greatest platform for creators. So he'll definitely call me on. We'll talk product a little bit. He knows like my background of like building the app 10 years ago with Shots, but I think more is like creators, like creators of all different worlds, not just YouTubers and influencers, but like athletes and actors and actresses and musicians, stuff like that.
One of the things I saw that he was talking about, I don't know if they're going to implement it or not, that I thought was a pretty interesting idea, is they're going to put ads potentially in the comments, and then the creator who creates the original post, right, could get a share of the actual ads in the comments. And, it would be like the equivalent of YouTube throwing up ads in the comment section, and then you get a share of it. And I just thought, like, okay, whether that works or not, it's always unclear, right? You got to kind of test it, and they'll look at the data, and they'll decide whether it's worth shipping or not. But like, man, they're thinking differently. Yeah. Right? Like they're willing to test some things that may be taboo, right?
That model works. Snapchat does that right now with creators. They run ads in between stories on Snap, and they share that with creators, and it's very good money. So this, obviously Twitter doesn't have stories. I do think, and I've told Elon a few times, I do think Twitter should bring back stories. Like, if you remember, they had fleets. Yep. Just like was like X. I mean, even the name, like what's a fleet? Isn't that when you buy a bunch of cars? Like, like what it's like, but just bring back Twitter's stories and just call it Twitter stories. But but yeah, I mean but the way they're doing it, because of the comment section, which is a lot of people read on Twitter. Versus just viewing, I think you'll get a lot of engaging people reading, and I think you can sell that engagement to advertisers as well.
I mean, putting the view count alone, right, was a pretty big deal. Like, it definitely, I think, opened people's eyes to like, hey, people may not be engaging, but they're here, they're watching, right?
And I thought that was genius.
Yeah, I did too.
I know there was a lot of backlash in the beginning, but I thought it was genius. I hope that feature's here to stay. I think it's great. I actually messaged them that too. I said, hey, I think this is a feature that should be here to stay.